Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So yesterday we talked about the California species list in Ultimate Hunting. They had just released that list yesterday, so we talked about it right when it came out, but there's also a species list that has been released by them recently for the Africa map. So we talked about California. I want to talk about the Africa species list as well. When I first saw this, I had some reservations, and my thoughts have changed from what they were initially to what they are now. I want to talk about that in this video. I want to go over the whole list, talk about some of the species, get into a little bit of detail about some of the species, and then at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about why I feel differently now about this list. After looking at this in more detail, I feel a lot differently than I did at first. We'll talk about that after we go over all the species and kind of talk about them in detail. So right from the top, African bush elephant. Obviously that's cool. That's something that people have wanted in Call of the Wild for a very long time, so that's exciting for a lot of people. The largest and heaviest land mammal in the world. It's gonna be crazy. They go right up to something like 11 tons, 11,000 kilos. I think on average, males go up to about 6.5 tons. So 6,500 kilos. They're absolutely massive, something like 13 feet tall. There's gonna be a bunch of different options for ammunition variations for them. I think there's gonna be like a 700 nitro. So yeah, elephants right off the bat, super, super cool. And then we move on to Angolan giraffes. Angolan giraffes, I believe, are the tallest species of giraffe in the world. Some sources will say that Maasai giraffes are taller, but I believe Maasai giraffes go up to about 17 feet. Angolan giraffes can go right up to like 19 feet tall. So I think they're the tallest species of giraffe. It'll be interesting to see if they drink, if they have drink zones, if drink zones are going to be a thing. I know zones aren't really going to be a thing in Ultimate Hunting. I think they're kind of going to be. It's kind of going to be in between Call of the Wild and Classic. So like loosely have zones and loosely have kind of schedules. But it'll be interesting to see if giraffes ever do drink, because in real life, Angolan giraffes, their necks are too tall to actually reach all the way to the ground. So they have to like awkwardly kind of like spread their legs to actually reach the ground. And the thing is with them, they get a lot of their hydration from the plants that they eat. So it'll be interesting to see, maybe they don't actually, go to the lakes or the rivers or anything. Maybe they're just gonna be out in the fields, kind of eating from the trees or resting. That'll be really, really cool to see. I'm really excited to see the giraffes in Ultimate Hunting. That's gonna be cool. Cape hippopotamus. This one has really grown on me more and more the more I've thought about it. Hippos are a really, really interesting species. They're actually the third largest animal species in the world behind elephants and rhinos. And contrary to popular belief, they're not just kind of lazy, big, fat animals that kind of hang out and lounge around in the swamps and stuff. They're actually not only are they very aggressive, they're one of the most dangerous animals in the world, but they can also run pretty fast. They can run up to like 30 kilometers an hour. So there's actually a little more to hippos than a lot of people think. This could very well be an animal that might go aggressive in the game if you get too close. As far as hunting them, it could be really, really interesting depending on how they actually end up doing it. It could be really, really cool. It'll be interesting to see how they do it. We've got African lions, we've got the Cape buffalo. Very, very cool. Really curious to see how they do the horns for the Cape buffalo. Super curious to see how they do their rag system, which is kind of their take on like a Hyrax system. It'll be interesting to see the variations of the horns for the Cape buffalo. Super excited to see that. Nile crocodile is going to be really, really, really awesome. They're the second biggest reptile species in the world, just behind the saltwater crocodiles. So Nile crocodiles are more of a freshwater crocodile species. So you're going to be seeing them at the rivers, the lakes, the swamps, the marshlands, things like that. They're absolutely massive, something like 14 feet long, and they can weigh up to like over 400 kilos. So absolutely massive. It's another thing that's going to be interesting to see in Ultimate Hunting. We've got 17 species per map. How are these animals all going to kind of cohabitate in a 50-kilometer squared map? It's going to be really interesting to see. But moving on the list, we got greater kudu, very, very cool. Another species that people have wanted to see in Call of the Wild for a really long time. Excited for that. Chakma baboons. Now, I had kind of mixed feelings about this at first, but now that I think about it, it's actually kind of, they're hunted in real life. They're not endangered. They're one of the biggest monkey species in the entire world. They go up to like 4 feet tall and they weigh something like 100 pounds. They go right up to like 45 kilos. Huge, huge monkeys. The females are like half the size. They go up to like 25 kilos, but the males do get really big. Black-backed jackal, very cool. Warthogs, very cool. Helmeted Guinea Fowl, a very, very interesting species. Very funny little, kind of like a turkey, like smaller than turkeys, but kind of like, I guess, like the African version of a turkey. They're really interesting species. They're very adept at running. Very good chance that when you spook a guinea fowl, it's going to run. It's not going to fly because they're super fast and they're very suited, well suited for running. And they'll run something like 12 kilometers at a time kind of thing. At full speed, and they're really funny. The males actually get really aggressive towards each other. We might see some guinea fowl fights in the game. Hopefully we'll see some guinea fowl fights with aggressive male guinea fowl. But yeah, if you don't know what they look like, definitely look them up. They're pretty funny looking. It'll be interesting to see how they implement them into the game for sure. White-faced whistling ducks, very cool. African savanna hare, awesome. I believe that's the same as a scrub hare. I don't know if they're actually different. Don't quote me on that. I think it's the same species. I'm not sure. And then we've got Cape ground squirrels, which that's awesome. Squirrels, not much more I can say about that. We've wanted squirrels in Call of the Wild for a long time. Cape ground squirrels are basically the African squirrel species. One of them, believe they are predominantly South African. Most of these species are, by the way. This is definitely a South African map. This is very indicative of a South African map for sure, 100%. And then we've got rock hyrax, which are another really cool species of animal. They're a terrestrial mammal, exclusive to Africa. They look like a big gerbil. They go right up to like 5 kilos, so they're quite big. Squirrels are like 1 pound, so we're talking about like, you know, a squirrel, a rock hyrax is like, basically they look like a big gerbil. Look them up if you haven't already done that. But they're really interesting. It's gonna be really interesting to see how they kind of act and habitate on the map. I know they live in large groups and they forage in large groups up to like 80 hyrax. And it'll be interesting to see how they kind of live alongside the African savanna hare. Now, at first when I saw this list, the first thing I thought was, you know, there's only one antelope species on this map, Greater Kudu, and Africa is just loaded with amazing antelope species. You know, from Greater Kudu to Nyala, Eland, Impala, Hartebeest, there's so many, and there's such amazing species. So my first impression was, wow, there's so many species on this list, and only one antelope. And at first that was kind of disappointing, but now the more I look at this, I feel like what they've done here is they found a good harmony here of small and big animals. So on this list, all the way from like blackback jackal all the way down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 species of really smaller game here, right? If you go up the list from Chakma Baboon on and upward, it would be hard to want to delete any of those and replace it with an antelope species. You're going to want to keep the zebras, you're going to want those baboons on there. Technically, blue wildebeest are actually an antelope species, so technically we actually do have 2 antelope species. But yeah, it would be hard to want to take any of these species off of this list and replace it with another animal. You're going to want the giraffes, the elephants, the hippos, the lions, the Cape buffalo. Everything here has its place. The wildebeest have their place. The crocodile, obviously, we wouldn't want to swap that out. So I feel like the fact that they've put so much small game on the map, it really probably, the thinking behind that is probably just for functionality, right? You're not going to want to have like all big species. There's already enough big species there for the size of the map that if you had any more, you're going to have way too many. So to have the squirrels and the hyrax, the savanna hare, the whistling ducks, the guinea fowl, the warthog, it's definitely coming down. I think a big part of this is functionality. There's a good harmony here. There's a good mix of small game, of waterfowl, of huge big game species, of like middle-sized big game species, and I think it just works. And I wouldn't want to omit any of those to actually replace any of those with another antelope species. Honestly, if I could, I would probably maybe switch blue wildebeest for another antelope species, but honestly, this is pretty much perfect for an Africa species list, for a 17 species Africa species list. I think for functionality, I think they've made really good choices here. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments section if you disagree, if you agree, if you would like to see any other species on this list. What do you guys think? Are you guys excited for this? But yeah, I'm excited to see how Ultimate Hunting is going to be, if it lives up to the hype. Really excited to see the trailer for the gameplay when that comes out. Hopefully that'll come out soon. We'll be able to see some gameplay and see what we're in for as far as this game, what it's going to bring. Don't forget to drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. I appreciate you guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one.